This is a narco-sub or narco-submarine, inspired by military submarines made by some nations around the world to monitor and patrol national and foreign waters. With the purpose of defending their homeland, narco-submarines have a completely different purpose. They are built to transport drugs, mostly cocaine, for short distances, such as between Colombia and Mexico, and for longer ones like between America and Europe. Despite their relatively small size, some of these narco-submarines carry 7.7 tons of cocaine inside them, valued at over $300 million tons. Since a gram of cocaine has an average market price of $147. But what is a narco-submarine? A narco-submarine, also called a drug submarine or narco-sub, is a type of vessel specially made for self-propelled ocean navigation. It can be semi-submersible, meaning part of it stays exposed above the water, or it can be fully submersible. It is just a whole unit designed for drug trafficking. They are especially difficult to be spotted by maritime patrol vessels, and above all, hard to be detected by radar. Because of their color, which blends in with the sea, and the small portion of the vessel that remains above water, and because of the material the hulls are made of. To show how dangerous these vessels are, by the end of 2024, in a period of 6 weeks, Operation Orion, conducted by 62 countries and led by authorities from Colombia, seized a total of 1,400 tons of drugs, of which 1,000 tons were marijuana, in 6 semi-submersible narco-submarines, among other vessels. This is Oscar Moreno Ricardo, nicknamed the King of Semi-Submersibles by the authorities of Colombia. He was arrested in January 2022. In the middle of the forest and near a river, Ricardo operated a clandestine shipyard for building semi-submersible narco-submarines, with the help of a small but talented group of people, specially chosen by the drug cartels for this task. The narco-submarines they built were some of the most advanced in drug trafficking. They were mainly fiberglass, making them lightweight, corrosion-resistant, and hard to detect by radar. They had a low profile, meaning they were designed to travel with most of their structure submerged, leaving only part of the cabin and the ventilation tube exposed above the water. They were painted blue or gray to improve sea camouflage and reduce aerial visibility. They were equipped with diesel or electric engines and had the range for long journeys, being able to travel more than 3,000 kilometers without refueling. Ricardo's narco-submarines have always stood out for their cargo capacity, with some being able to carry between 5 and 8 tons of cocaine at a time, a multi-million-dollar cargo that used to cross the Pacific without the authorities noticing. That's because it's estimated that only 14% of the vessels were intercepted by the authorities. There are thousands of ingenious ways used by major cartels worldwide to transport drugs from point A to point B. They are constantly improved to make detection nearly impossible. Some of them include the use of drones and unmanned aerial vehicles, usually to cross a border wall. Books, glasses, or hollowed-out objects, fake fish and marine animals, body implants, underground tunnels, fake chemical solution liquids, among others. But none of these methods transports a larger quantity or has a lower chance of being detected as for narco-submarines, especially the fully submersible ones, due to their stealth and their theoretically unlimited transport capacity, since their size can always be increased. The typical anatomy of a semi-submersible narco-submarine is as follows. In the center, there's the crew compartment, which can hold 2, 4, or more people. It's a cramped place with no comfort, and often there's only a single seat for the vessel's pilot. The rest of the crew spends the trip either lying down, standing, or crouching. Above, there are windows for the pilot to navigate and watch for possible dangers, such as patrol boats, helicopters, and ships in general. At the back, there's the engine compartment, which most of the time runs on diesel and drives the single propeller that powers the vessel. There is access to the engine compartment from the crew compartment for any necessary repairs. A kind of snorkel sticks out so the engine can take in oxygen to operate. At the front is the cargo compartment where the drugs are stored. It can vary from anything like 3 tons up to 8 tons, but it's known that there are vessels with up to 12 tons of capacity. On the vessel, there are also ballast tanks for depth control and fuel tanks. Sometimes, they evenly distribute the drug's weight in other compartments to keep the vessel stable. The speed varies from model to model, but on average they travel at more than 20 kilometers per hour. And it was at a similar speed that this narco-submarine was traveling, which was spotted in international waters by a patrol plane, which immediately reported the vessel's position to the Coast Guard, who promptly intercepted it and put an end to the journey. There were 5 drug traffickers inside who ended up being arrested. The semi-submersible narco-submarine was carrying no less than 7.7 tons of cocaine inside, valued at over $200 million, and it originated from Ecuador. If the Coast Guard hadn't acted quickly during the approach, they could have pulled a valve that would flood the narco-submarine, taking it deep into the sea. All the drugs and all the evidence. Incredibly, most narco-subs are used only once, and after completing their first and only mission, they are sunk, in an attempt not to reveal the location where the drugs are loaded. And whenever a large amount of drugs is seized, this causes cartels to lose a lot of money, and it forces the builders to innovate. This is a transatlantic narco-submarine, which is 22 meters long. It's similar to a military submarine, with the difference that it's made of fiberglass. It has an oval hull, steering blades, and can fully submerge. That's because it has a snorkel, which is the only part that stays above the water, so that the air inside the cabin and the diesel engine can be regularly exchanged. It also has a generator and a camera on the snorkel so that the crew always knows exactly what's happening outside the water. Ballast tanks allow it to increase its weight and dive deep into the sea if any danger is detected. It can carry an incredible 8 tons of cocaine from Colombia to various destinations, such as Mexico, Brazil, or Europe. The first narco-sub of this kind was only seized in 2019, but it's known that many others have been cruising the depths of the Pacific for years. That's because, due to its navigation characteristics being completely submerged, it becomes very difficult to detect. But what would be the peak of the narco-submarines in current times? Well, the answer to that question was partially found at the end of 2020. On November 5th, the Colombian Navy, with support from the United States Drug Enforcement Agency and local agencies, carried out an operation at an artisanal shipyard near the Cucurupi River in the Chaco region of Colombia. Under an improvised roof, they found a narco-submarine still being built, unlike anything previously discovered. The narco-submarine measured 12 meters in length and had no fuel tanks or diesel engine. Instead, it carried an incredible 10 tons of batteries that powered 2 electric motors, which indicated that the narco-submarine was electric. It is estimated that its range was about 12 hours, and besides being electric, it is fully submersible. In other words, it's very hard to detect. Authorities estimate that the construction cost was around $1.5 million, and its cargo capacity was 6 tons of drugs. Although it carried 10 tons of batteries on board, its speed did not exceed 6 kilometers per hour, and therefore it would only cover at most a stretch of about 60-something kilometers, which is very little. But the people who built it are very smart and knew what they were doing. That's why the narco-submarine had a towing winch right at the front. This means that the narco-submarine was built in such a way that once loaded with drugs, it is submerged and towed by another vessel, which could be any ship that's part of the operation, for whatever distance is needed until it's close to its destination. And once it's there, the narco-submarine disconnects and continues its journey to the final extraction point, in this case, powered by its batteries. All of this happens without raising any suspicion and without being detected. And this is so true and was so well done that to this day, no narco-submarine of this type has ever been found in action, which reveals its supremacy. The global illicit drug market moves hundreds of billions of dollars annually, according to the Transnational Crime and Development Award report from the think tank Global Financial Integrity. In 2014, the global illicit substance market was valued between $426 and $652 billion. That represents almost 1% of the world's gross domestic product that year, in other words, in 2014. Just imagine nowadays, especially with the increasing use and notoriety of more advanced and capable narco-submarines. Well, although Oscar Moreno Ricardo is in prison, there is very likely another builder who has taken his place. And somewhere in the jungles of Colombia, he could be developing the next generation of narco-submarines.